So we want to take a little time, just kind of discuss some of the common use cases that we've been seeing from our customers. Maybe it'll spark some ideas in your mind, and just maybe some ways that we can help you solve some problems that you're facing. So one of the more common use cases that we see is customers who have a single physical data center, let's say located somewhere in the United States. In this diagram on the left, we have it there located in the West. We call it, somewhere on the West Coast, but they have branch offices located throughout the US. And whenever those branch offices need to access a cloud environment or some kind of private infrastructure, their data path ends up going from the East Coast all the way across the US to a West Coast and then up into a cloud environment. If that cloud environment happens to be located in Northern Virginia, that can result in a very long path, basically going across the country 4 times to get a single TCP packet through. That's not going to be a very good user experience for those customers or employees of the client. So something that we're able to solve for is instead of having the traffic kind of go to a centralized data center, we can strategically locate the MVE close to where the customer's branches are. So we could, let's just say these East Coast branches happen to be located in Florida. We could deploy an MVE in Atlanta or somewhere close to where those branches are. From there, those branch offices are able to connect directly to the MVE by taking a short internet path and then get access to the cloud environment. But in addition to that, they're also able to ride our private backbone across the internet and get to that West location. This is kind of something that Rocky alluded to earlier, kind of the concept of middle mile optimization, where, the using the internet for a path is kind of a double-edged sword, because you want to connect to the internet because it's easy, but at the same time, internet paths are well known to be poor quality. So instead of having those branch offices having to ride public internet across the country, you can get onto our private backbone in a fairly quick amount of time. And then from there, get connectivity to anywhere in the world that Megaport has infrastructure. So another use case that we're commonly seeing is whenever customers have cloud terminations of their SD-WAN. Let's just say on day one, they have an AWS instance and they need to extend their SD-WAN environment into there. So they go in, deploy a pair of devices, deploy actual SD-WAN appliances in their VPC and turn up IPsec tunnels, which works fine. But once they actually need to start adding on cloud environments, so let's say sometime down the road, they want to add in Azure. So technically, they would have to go through the exact same process, procure 2 licenses, deploy them in the infrastructure, turn up IPsec tunnels, and get that connectivity. And if you start considering this in a multi-cloud environment where maybe we're doing 3, 4 multiple public clouds, that becomes unmanageable very quickly and expensive because you're having a license for every site. So instead, we can deploy an MVE. Again, we can strategically locate it either near a branch office or near the cloud environments, whatever's best for the customer. We can deploy an MVE, and then from there, we can turn up VXCs into multiple cloud environments. Like in this diagram, we have a direct connect going and an express route circuit. And from that single MVE, it almost kind of acts as a VPN concentrator that every new branch site basically just needs an IPsec tunnel to the MVE. And then from there, they have access to any infrastructure, be it a cloud or private infrastructure that they need. Finally, another use case that we have is sometimes customers, let's just say we have a US-based customer, US-based company. They have branches all over the place. They have SD-WAN infrastructure deployed. Everything is good. But they're looking to deploy in Europe. So, for whatever reason, they want to open up a branch office there. But they start looking into what would it take to actually turn up a branch office. Because in the US, they turn up a branch office, they ship a couple SD-WAN devices, plug it into the internet, they have access. But if they were to do the same thing in Europe, that traffic, in order to actually home back into an orchestration device, has to go across the Atlantic, come back into the US and get that kind of connectivity, which is going to be a significant amount of round trip time for doing that kind of connectivity. So instead of actually, one of their option would be actually go to a colo provider, get a cage, deploy infrastructure, and everything associated. Which just honestly, just doing that is under normal times is going to take a lot of time. I don't know if anyone here has tried to order any hardware in the past few months. The supply chains are a little difficult. So actually just getting the hardware, you're probably looking at several months for deployment. Well, the flip side of that is like, so if we come to Megaport and we could deploy an MVE for you in anywhere in Europe, and in 5 minutes, you have that footprint ready to go. You can get VXCs going into your cloud environments. You can home it back to the US. You can get connectivity wherever you need in minutes rather than months that it would take to deploy in a physical environment. So from here, we wanted to just kind of give you a couple of customer specific use cases, scenarios that we've seen that we think are pretty cool. Like we were really able to solve for the customers. First one was we had a multinational company. They had presences in the US, Europe, and APAC. Very large company. They have connectivity going everywhere. They already had their SD-WAN set up, and they actually had an SD-WAN over internet, and they had their legacy MPLS provider in production still. And they needed a reliable way of getting cloud connectivity. As of before us, they were using IPsec tunnels, which was expensive, and it was just an unreliable traffic path. So we were able to work with them to deploy MVEs in all three geographic regions, and from there they were able to get their cloud connectivity, through a standard MVE. And in addition to that, we were able to deploy ports, which is our traditional connection method. So those ports actually connected into the MPLS provider. And then, so they were able to use both an internet path and an MPLS path to get to their cloud providers via Megaport. On the next slide, we have kind of more of a global distribution of how that looks. This is what we ended up deploying initially with the MVEs strategically located near where the customer sites were. From there, their branch offices were able to connect to an MVE and then access a cloud environment locally. And that ended up working awesome for them. But then also, in addition to that, they were looking to extend their MPLS connections to their branch offices. So we deployed ports for them, and that was able to get their actual data centers part of the Megaport infrastructure. So their SD-WANs sites could access it, and also their cloud environments could get full access into those data centers. So another customer that came to us, they're a very large US-based company. They have 1,100 branch sites spread out across the US. And they had a very similar scenario to what we keep seeing, where they have East Coast-based locations and a single data center located, actually there's a couple of data centers located in Las Vegas, but their branches needed to be able to access not only the Las Vegas private data center, they also needed to access West Coast and East Coast cloud environments. But what they were actively seeing was that traffic from the East Coast was going across the country, getting into a Las Vegas data center, and then from there they had a private connection into their cloud environments. And you would actually see an East Coast to West Coast to East Coast transaction of like 100 milliseconds, which there's a lot of applications out there that are not going to take very kindly to that kind of latency. So what we were able to do for them is deploy MVEs strategically across the US. We did it in Seattle, Toronto, Chicago, and Atlanta. From there, their branch offices were able to connect to the closest available MVE, and from there get onto the Megaport private backbone and get into their East Coast cloud environments or go into their Las Vegas data centers. And ultimately, they were able to drastically reduce latency for basically all connectivity that they needed. And that was a huge success. And actually, even moving forward, we mentioned how sometimes you may not want to build out infrastructure. We've been in talks with them about if they were to want to move forward with a branch office in the EU. Just exactly what we're talking about. Let's just deploy a couple of MVEs that are close to where they're looking at deploying and get them the connectivity they need in a very quick manner. So finally, we wanted to just kind of talk with, how does Megaport fit into a SASE strategy? Ultimately, SASE is just about taking security to the edge of your network. Megaport is here to give you that connectivity. So we're here to get you connectivity from your SD-WAN to your cloud environments or to your branch offices. But ultimately, we're here to get you that connectivity that you need. And then from there, we can also you say you need security at your edge, so via SD-WAN appliance. We're here to help you deploy your MVE devices. And then from there, you can use standardized security practices to be able to get secure your edges. We could do firewalls as a service, or we could do just kind of a zero trust network approach. But ultimately, we're just here to get you connectivity between the locations and have a platform that can do that securely.